Not so long ago, robotic surgery was considered a futuristic idea, something that you would only see in sci-fi movies. But like many things that once seemed fictional, robotic surgery is fast becoming the norm, especially in countries like Korea. And the global demand for such procedures, as well as the robots that can perform these tasks, is skyrocketing. A U.S. company currently leads the global surgical robotics market, but Korea's meerecompany, which developed Korea's first surgical robot system, is raring to catch up. And our globalist today is the CEO of meerecompany, Kim Joon-koo. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure being here.
Well, welcome to the Globalist. Now, tell us about meerecompany's Revo-i. I mean, that's the name of the robot, surgical
Exactly.
robot.
Right.
Introduce us to Revo-i.
There's a misconception out there that robot does surgery on its own,
Yeah.
but it's actually not. So it's surgeon-controlled, precision-controlled robot.
What does that mean, though? I mean,
So exactly. So there are three components of this Revo-i system. One is a master console. You can think of it as a cockpit.
Okay.
That's where a surgeon would sit and see through a three-dimensional camera, which looks inside of the body. And there is also another component that's called the operational cart. That's basically a robot with 4 arms. So operation cart is located next to the patients. So the whole concept is the surgeon would sit apart from a patient on a cockpit comfortably. And then actual carrying out the motions controlled by the surgeon is done through a robot, what we call a operational cart. Of course, the third component is what we call a vision cart, and it's for the assistants in the operating room. So there are many other doctors or assistants that go into the operating room to help out the surgeon. So they will look through the vision cart and see what surgeon is performing and surgeon's request and the condition of the patients and everything. So there are 3 main components of the robot.
so that means around the patient, him or herself, they're not really the kind of people like merged as you would see in a drama of a
Exactly.
surgery of a.
You're right. Usually there's a main surgeon sitting on a cockpit, the master console, and there will be an assistant next to the patient, and her or his role is to change the instruments from time to time as a surgeon requests. So, less number of physicians or medical staffs required in the room if you use the robot.
The type of surgeries that can be done by the robots, are they all surgery, or are there certain types that cannot be done by robotic surgery?
So it's
still?
general purpose laparoscopic surgical robot. So think of it to make it simple. If there's a cavity in your body, any organs in cavity, this robot can perform surgery on. Any surgery, it's a combination of hold, lift, cut, and burn, right? So if
Think about it that way, but
a combination
you're
of those
right,
4 motions. And if a robot can do it precisely, then scope of the indications that it can perform is basically you can do anything with it.
So why do we need surgeons then? I mean, I know we're moving way ahead, but you made it sound like the robots have such control.
Yeah.
Is there something that a surgeon can do that a robot cannot do?
A surgeon has to control the robot. So robot is basically an assistant that carries out in orders of the surgeon, right? If surgeon wants to move the robot to the right, robot doesn't make the decision. Surgeon controls the robot 100%.
And it has to? The surgeon has to?
It has to. robot does not move without surgeon doing it.
It sounds like a very futuristic,
It is.
even though it is in practice now, technology where it seems like there's a lot of potential for growth. Your company, meerecompany, is the second in the world to have developed your own surgical robot.
Yes.
Tell us about how the market is and where you stand.
So Revo-i was the second globally to be launched into the market. If you look at the number of installment of a laparoscopic surgical robot, of course our competitor has been a monopoly.
The U.S.
for 2
company
years.
is pretty much 90-some%
More
of the
than
market.
90%. So they have installed about 8,000 robots globally. More than half of it is in U.S. and 4,000 throughout the world. That means this market is growing, of course. It's a huge market because robotic surgery is now becoming a trend globally.
Almost the norm.
Exactly.
We're getting there. Yeah.
Exactly. And CAGR-wise, more than 2 digits every year. However, if you look at the penetration of laparoscopic surgical robot in each region, it's totally different story. So as I said, out of 8,000 systems installed, more than half is in US and Europe, Japan, China, Korea, Taiwan. But if you look at emerging country, like Southeast Asia, Central Asia, Northern Africa, Middle East, it's very low penetration. So as a company, what we are focusing on in terms of go-to-market strategy is, of course, lay out a solid foundation and track record in Korea first, and then focus on emerging markets out there with the less laparoscopic surgical robot penetration.
What's the market like in Korea?
Korea is a very interesting market, if you think about it as a laparoscopic robotic surgery. In terms of market size, globally, Korea is less than 2% in terms of number of systems installed.
Very
So the
small.
market is very small. But in terms of quality of our surgeons and skills of our surgeon, it's totally different story. Korea is considered the top globally. For example, there's the 신촌se브란스병원 hospital in Korea. It's a hospital with the most number of laparoscopic surgical robots globally. So they
That one hospital?
One hospital. And also there are many surgeons in Korea with the record of doing the most number of robotic surgeries in their field. So for example, Korea has a professor who does the most number of prostatectomy using robots globally per year.
The Korean surgeons are so well known for their robotic surgery skills. Does that help you become a more serious player in this market?
And of course it does, certainly. I mean, if you think about it, the history of open surgery has been more than 200 years. But for commercial laparoscopic robotic surgery, it has been a little more than 20 years now. That means development of the robotic surgery going forward, there's much more way to go, much more room for improvement. But in order to achieve the additional improvement of the system, feedback from your users, quality users, the renowned users, is very critical. In Korea, we have great hospitals that do a lot of robotic surgery and opening up a new applications using robots, doing research on them. And also we have great doctors here. So we have easier access to doctors and hospitals that are renowned globally and with a lot of skills and interest in development of the robot, co-development of the robot.
So they're the ones that give you the feedback so that you can upgrade or improve your system.
Exactly.
What kind of changes were made through this kind of feedback loop process?
So many changes, of course, that some of them may not be feasible to be implemented into the robot, but we do our best to first identify what are the unmet needs of the surgeons and two, trying to figure out the easier way and quicker way of implementing it or reflecting it onto our system. For example, one of the early users of our robot suggested that we use many instruments. There are many types of instruments that we switch depending on what type of surgery you're doing. And he suggests that he wanted an instrument with a longer tip because it turned out that the way of his doing surgery was a little bit different than what most other surgeons would do. And his way of doing it, he would need longer tip to make it easier for him to do his own way of doing surgery. So we received that feedback, and within several months, we developed a new instrument with a longer tip and provided to him, so that he can do more surgeries, more convenient.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about producing a scalpel, that's not expensive. You can make a little bit of a longer blade for a scalpel and hand it, but you're talking about customizing a whole robot for one surgeon. Is that feasible?
Customizing it per surgeon, frankly, is not possible. However, this is a general purpose robot. So earlier we talked about it's for the combination of 4 motions. How to combine them, surgeon's skills. So for example, if you're a urologist doing a prostatectomy, I'm doing it, you're doing it. Same robot, but way of doing it is totally different.
Because you're doing it, it's different from how I do it.
Exactly. So that is why we focus on making a robot as robust as possible.
So it's sort of refining the way each surgeon does a surgery, not doing it for him or her.
But then making a robot more robust is not as simple as you would think.
I wouldn't imagine it to be simple.
Because if you think about it, what we do is we open up our robot as a platform. If there's a company, for example, in Israel, they came up with new technology that traditional way of doing laparoscopic surgery surgeons are using, then we co-work with them. So we modify interfaces of the instruments so that we can attach it in our robot. And now our robotic surgeons can use cutting-edge technology. And then at the same time, that company, we have opened up a new market for them. So we are currently working with companies in India, US, Sweden, Japan, globally to bring in cutting-edge technologies into our robot to expedite the process of meeting the needs of our surgeons.
It sounds like a very exciting time.
Yeah.
In its initial phase where the growth phase is very important.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
You are CEO of MeereCompany. You're young to be a CEO.
Maybe not anymore in several years.
Well, I guess you're younger
Younger.
Than some of the CEOs. So tell us about your journey on to becoming CEO.
Sure. So actually the MeereCompany has been around for 39 years now. And my passion, my career passion has always been working with my father in a company that he has founded, the MeereCompany.
That's the MeereCompany.
Right. How my father started having interest in robotic surgery or surgical robot. It goes all the way back to 2005, actually.
Was that when surgical robots were first
Introduced in Korea. Yeah. So what happened was, back then, the equipment business was the only business our company was doing. And it's very cyclical business. So as you know, display industry, semiconductor industry, very cyclical. So my father always thought about having a new business that can mitigate the cyclicality of the performance of the company. So he came up with 3 criteria for choosing a new business. 1, no cyclicality, steady growth going forward. And 2,
he was sick of the cyclicality of the display business. Yes.
And 2, entry barrier has to be high enough so that there should not be many competitors, existing competitors in that industry, because he didn't want to do something that everybody else could do. And 3, he wanted to do something that has to do with the lives of the people. Like he
Make
wanted
a
to
difference type
exactly,
of thing.
something good for the society. So he was, considering many business opportunities. And what happened in 2005, the first robotic surgery took place in Severance Hospital using our competitor's product, of course, back then. So my father saw that, and discussing it with his close friends who were already in this medical kind of hospital businesses, and thought that was it, right?
Oh.
The healthcare medical device industry always more than 2 digits of growth going forward, and it will continue to grow. And entry barrier, there was only 1 player back then. And technology-wise, very complicated products, so not many people could do it. And 3, it directly has something to do with saving lives of the people. And then it started in 2007. Took us more than we expected.
It took you 11 years. I mean, that's
Exactly.
a very high entry barrier.
Very high entry barrier. And at the same time, you don't see many companies, like our company's size, doing R&D for that many years before system is launched. But we always had a belief that this business could be a game changer going forward. The reason why it took us that many years is that, 1, it's a complicated product.
It's a hard. I can believe.
It's just hard to develop. And 2, it's regulatory kind of business.
Because it's medicine. It's
Exactly.
in the medical industry.
So there are many regulatory approvals that you have to go through. And also, in order to do that, you have to do clinical trials, and it takes years of doing it. So it took us 11 years, and we launched the Revo-i in 2018. And we've been in this business for 5 years now, commercially. Yeah.
Especially the surgical robot section was started on your father's convictions about this. But now that you have taken over the reign, now you have an engineering background, you have a corporate management background. When you look at Mirecompany, what do you see?
So our company is not a conglomerate. And we don't want to build this company into conglomerate, right? We don't want to do all these type of business that have nothing to do with each other. We don't want to do that. But one thing that our company can do to our employees is that we want to continue to provide new R&D opportunities that they cannot experience in any other companies in Korea. For example, like surgical robot was one. We were the first one in Korea. So whoever came to our company as an engineer, they were the first one in Korea to put their hands on that technology. And it's a great motivator for them. I was an engineer in my early career. And of course, the money and fame is important, but what's more important is that I want to do something fun and something new every day. We want to do that so that our employees can grow within our system. For our customers, we want to be a company where customers can come with their unmet needs and find the solutions with confidence. So in all these 3 businesses, in equipment business, if they have new design that's coming up and they need manufacturing equipment to produce it, then they can come to us and we can build the equipment for them.
I mean, all your areas of business seem like very futuristic areas that really comply with all three of the conditions that your father laid out. But if we come back to the surgical robots, it obviously has a future, but it also has a lot of challenges.
It does.
I can see.
This product deals with lives of people, right? It's surgery, meaning our users are very, very conservative. They don't want to switch, basically.
Your users are doctors right now.
Surgeons and doctors.
Surgeons and doctors.
They're very, very conservative. Even before considering whether it's easier to use or more functionality, efficacy and safety have to be guaranteed. So I think we achieved that milestone. So that's why we are in the market selling the product. Next step is to increase the footprint of this robots, meaning we have to increase the number of countries that use Revo-i. These hospitals and these surgeons are very conservative, meaning the first robot that they use, if it is Revo-i, they have tendency to continue to use it going forward. So they become very royal. I don't know whether it's the right term or not to use here, but royal customers going forward. We start with emerging markets with less penetration of a surgical robot, so that preferably we can be the first one to go into that market. For example, Uzbekistan was a country that we opened up last year. And our robot was the first surgical robot countrywide that they started using. And the doctors in Uzbekistan, naturally, they will become the first surgeons to use surgical robot in Uzbekistan. So that interests are kind of aligned.
Well, it feels like it's a market that's growing. We don't even know how fast it can grow in the future. So having that kind of advantage is probably
Exactly.
A great thing.
Our differentiator with our other competitors, setting aside the product itself, is that we don't sell the robot. We provide a Revo surgical robot program. What that means is that our efforts with the hospitals and our surgeons do not end with selling the robot. Greater efforts, continuous efforts will go in after selling the robot, meaning we provide training the surgeons and also assistants and nurses.
The whole
staffs,
team.
medical staffs. Naturally, if a hospital decides to buy our robot, they're buying the program. And they will get a chance to continuously provide feedback. And I cannot promise that we're going to take all those feedback and implement everything in our robot. However, we will do our best to seriously consider and find the ways technologically how we can implement and reflect that in our robot so that tomorrow's Revo-i is always better than today's.
Well, we'll be looking to the next. So Revo-i is now your one and only.
Exactly.
But we may be seeing new generations of Revo-i not too far in the future.
Right, we're working on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we'll look forward to that. And best of luck when you do.
Thank you for inviting me.
And that's it for me. I'll be back next week with another globalist who is putting Korea on the map. Sun Jie out.